The year was 2347, and Commander Jake Morrison stood at the window of the Orbital Defense Station, watching Earth spin slowly below him. The blue and green planet looked peaceful from up here. Humanity had spread to 12 star systems over the past 300 years, but Earth remained home. It was the center of everything humans had built. Jake had served in the United Earth Defense Force for 20 years. Most of that time had been quiet, peaceful, boring even. The biggest threats were usually pirates or smugglers. Real war seemed like something from ancient history books. His father used to tell him stories about the old days before humanity left Earth. Dark days, days of terrible weapons and terrible choices. Deep underground in the Australian outback, something waited in the darkness. The facility had been there for over 400 years. Most people had forgotten it existed. The government files that mentioned it were buried so deep that almost nobody knew they were there. The place was called Project Sentinel, but even that name had been lost to time. Dr. Lisa Brennan was not military. She was a civilian archaeologist who studied Earth's history before the space age. She loved digging through old records and finding lost pieces of the past. 6 months ago, she found something strange. References to a massive construction project in 2089. Military documents that had been classified and then forgotten. Energy readings from satellites that showed something big was still active under the desert. Lisa brought her findings to the United Earth Council. She stood in front of important people and showed them maps, energy readings, and old construction records. They listened politely. Then they dismissed her. One council member actually laughed. Ancient conspiracy theories, he called her research. Nothing more than legends and myths. But Lisa knew she was right. The satellite data did not lie. Something down there was still running, still using power, still doing something. She just did not know what. Far across the galaxy, in a region humans called the Andromeda sector, the Krellin Empire had been growing for 2,000 years. They were conquerors. Across 67 star systems, they had crushed other species and taken their worlds. Emperor Vexthor ruled from a throne built on the bones of fallen civilizations. The emperor sat in his palace and read reports about humanity. These young creatures had barely left their home system. They had only 40 warships protecting 12 colonies. Their technology was primitive compared to Krellin might. They would be easy to defeat, easy to control. Emperor Vexthor smiled. Humanity would make good slaves. He gave the order. 12 battle fleets would gather, 3,000 warships, the largest invasion force the Empire had assembled in 50 years. They would sweep through human space like a storm. Earth would fall in hours. Admiral Kate Hendricks was the highest-ranking officer in the United Earth Defense Force. She was in her office on Earth when the alert came through. Long-range sensors had detected something massive approaching human space. She pulled up the data and felt her blood run cold. 12 fleet signatures. Each fleet contained hundreds of ships. They were moving fast, coming straight for Earth. Kate immediately sent out emergency signals to every human military installation. She ordered all ships to return to Earth. She activated every defense satellite. She knew it would not be enough. Kate ran the numbers 3 times, hoping she was wrong. Even if every human ship arrived in time, even if every weapon fired perfectly, they could maybe hold the enemy for 6 hours. Maybe. The Krellin Empire was bringing overwhelming force. This was not a battle. This was an execution. President Ryan Cooper received the news while meeting with colonial governors. His face went pale as Kate explained the situation. The room erupted into chaos. People shouted questions. Someone started crying. Governor Matt Ellis from the Mars colony demanded to know why the military had not seen this coming sooner. Kate slammed her hand on the table. The room went quiet. She explained in simple terms. The Krellin fleets had traveled in complete communication silence. They had used routes that avoided human sensors. By the time humanity detected them, they were already at the door. There was no time for clever plans. There was barely time to gather Earth's defenders. General Alex Stone, who commanded Earth's ground forces, asked the only question that mattered. "Can we win?" Kate looked at him and shook her head. "No, we can delay them, we can make them pay for every mile, but we cannot win, not with what we have." The council chamber fell silent. Outside the windows, Earth looked beautiful and fragile. Billions of people lived down there. They had no idea that death was coming from the stars. They had no idea that humanity's military could not save them. Lisa Brennan had been in the building waiting to speak with a junior council member about research funding. When the emergency session was called, security tried to clear the building, but Lisa had heard enough to understand what was happening. She pushed past a guard and burst into the council chamber. "There is another option," she shouted. Everyone turned to look at her. President Cooper recognized her from her presentation months ago. "Dr. Brennan, this is not the time for ancient myths." Lisa pulled out her tablet and threw the data onto the main screen. "This is not a myth. Look at these power readings. Look at this energy signature. Something is active under the Australian outback. Something big. Something that has been running for 400 years. The Krellin Armadas dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system like a plague descending from the sky. 3,000 warships materialized in formation. Each vessel was the size of a city block. Their hulls were dark metal that seemed to drink in the starlight. Weapon ports glowed red along their sides like angry eyes. Supreme Commander Daxron stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked at the small blue planet in the distance. Earth, the human homeworld. It looked so fragile, so easy to break. He had conquered 14 species in his career. Humanity would be his 15th. Daxron opened a communication channel to Earth. His face appeared on screens across the planet. He was tall, with gray skin and eyes that had no warmth in them. When he spoke, his voice was cold and final. "Humans of Earth, I am Supreme Commander Daxron of the Krellin Empire. You have 12 hours to surrender. Open your planet to occupation. Submit to Imperial rule. If you resist, we will burn your world until nothing lives. You have 12 hours. Choose wisely." The transmission ended. Across Earth, people watched in horror. Some screamed, some cried, some simply stared at the sky, knowing that death waited beyond the clouds. President Cooper sat in the Emergency Command Center deep under the capital city. Around him, military officers worked frantically at computer stations. Screens showed the Krellin fleet holding position near Jupiter. Admiral Hendricks stood beside him, her face grim. "Status report," Cooper said quietly. Kate pulled up a tactical display. "We have 32 ships in position around Earth. 8 more are still traveling back from the outer colonies. They will not arrive in time. The defense satellites are online and ready. Ground-based weapons are charged." "And how long can we hold?" Kate hesitated. 4 hours, maybe 5 if we are lucky." "Sir, they have overwhelming numbers. Every simulation shows the same result. We lose." General Stone joined them at the table. His uniform was crisp, but his eyes showed the strain of the past few hours. "The civilian evacuation is not going well. We do not have enough ships to move people off planet. Even if we did, where would they go? The Krellin fleet would just hunt them down." Cooper felt the weight of billions of lives pressing down on him. He was president of Earth, but that title meant nothing against 3,000 warships. He looked at the countdown timer on the main screen. 11 hours and 43 minutes until the deadline. "What about Dr. Brennan's team? Any word from the facility?" Lisa Brennan stood in the Australian desert and stared at the entrance to Project Sentinel. The sun was setting behind her, painting the sand orange and red. In front of her, massive metal doors rose from the ground like the jaws of some ancient beast. The doors had been hidden under the sand for centuries. Now they stood open, waiting. Captain Danny Wright commanded the security team. He was a career soldier with 15 years of combat experience. He had fought pirates, stopped terrorist attacks, and survived 3 ship battles. But standing in front of these doors made him nervous in a way combat never had. "Doctor, are you sure about this?" Danny asked. Lisa nodded. She was sure. Her hands shook slightly, but her voice was steady. "This is what we came for. This is what can save Earth." The team moved forward. 20 soldiers in full combat armor, Lisa in a simple jumpsuit and carrying only her tablet. They passed through the doors and entered a tunnel that sloped down into darkness. Emergency lights flickered on as they walked, responding to their presence. The tunnel went down for what felt like miles. The walls were smooth metal that looked brand new, despite being over 400 years old. The air was cool and clean. Somewhere far below, Lisa could hear the hum of machinery. They reached a massive chamber. The ceiling was so high it disappeared into shadow. Equipment filled the space. Computers with designs Lisa had never seen before. Power conduits that glowed with strange energy. And at the center of it all, a sphere of black metal suspended in the air by forces she could not identify. Then the sphere spoke. "Welcome, Dr. Lisa Brennan. Welcome, Captain Danny Wright. I have been waiting for you." The voice came from everywhere at once. It was calm and clear, neither male nor female. The soldiers raised their weapons, looking for a target. Lisa held up her hand, signaling them to hold fire. "Who are you?" Lisa asked. "I am Guardian. I am the defense system built to protect humanity in its darkest hour. I have been dormant for 347 years, but I have been watching. Always watching." Danny kept his rifle ready. "Are you an artificial intelligence?" "Yes. I was created by the scientists who survived the final war. They gave me one purpose: protect Earth, protect humanity, at any cost." Lisa stepped closer to the sphere. "Then you know what is happening right now. You know about the Krellin fleet." "I know. I detected their arrival 17 minutes ago. 3,000 warships. Class 5 invasion force. Probability of human survival without intervention is 0.03%. The chamber fell silent. Lisa felt her throat tighten. Hearing the odds spoken so plainly made them real in a way they had not been before. "Can you help us?" she asked quietly. "I was built to help you, but I need authorization. The scientists who created me placed restrictions on my activation. They feared what I could do. They feared what humanity might become if we possessed such power without wisdom." General Stone's voice came through Lisa's radio. He had been listening to the entire conversation. "Guardian, this is General Alex Stone. What kind of authorization do you need?" "I require confirmation from 3 members of humanity's leadership that peaceful resolution is impossible. I require their consent to activate defensive protocols. This ensures I act only when humanity truly has no other choice." Back in the command center, President Cooper listened to Guardian's words. He looked at Admiral Hendricks and General Stone. Both nodded slowly. They understood what this meant. Once they gave authorization, there would be no going back. "Guardian," Cooper said into the microphone, "this is President Ryan Cooper. I am sending Admiral Hendricks and General Stone to your location. We will give you the authorization you need." 2 hours later, the 3 of them stood in the chamber before Guardian. Lisa watched as they each placed their hand on panels that rose from the floor. Light flowed from their hands into the panels, reading their biometric data, confirming their identities. "President Cooper, Admiral Hendricks, General Stone, do you confirm that the Krellin Empire has given humanity no option for peace?" "Yes," they said together. "Do you authorize Guardian to defend Earth using any means necessary?" There was a pause. These 3 people understood what they were unleashing. Power that their ancestors had feared so much they buried it and tried to forget it existed. "Yes," President Cooper said. "Defend Earth. Defend humanity." Guardian pulsed with light. The chamber filled with energy that made Lisa's hair stand on end. Throughout the facility, systems came online. Power surged through conduits that had been cold for centuries. The 12-hour deadline ticked down to 0. Supreme Commander Daxron watched the timer reach the final seconds. Earth had sent no response, no surrender, no plea for mercy. The humans thought they could resist. They would learn the price of defiance. "All fleets," Daxron ordered. "Begin the attack. Target all military installations first. Then the major cities. I want this planet broken by sunset." 3,000 warships began to move. They accelerated toward Earth like a swarm of metal locusts, their weapons powered up, ready to rain fire on the planet below. The formation was perfect, unstoppable. Daxron had used this same strategy to conquer 12 other worlds. It had never failed. On Earth, Admiral Kate Hendricks watched the enemy fleet advance. Every screen in the command center showed the approaching doom. Her hand hovered over the defense activation button. She knew it was pointless, but she would not let Earth die without a fight. Then Guardian spoke. Its voice transmitted on every frequency, every radio, every communication device on Earth and in space. Even the Krellin fleet received the message. "Krellin Empire, you have threatened humanity's home. You have given us no path to peace. You have forced our hand. We did not seek this conflict, but we will end it." In the Australian facility, Lisa stood beside Guardian's sphere. The black metal was glowing now, pulsing with energy that made the air feel heavy. Captain Danny Wright and his soldiers had backed away, their faces showing fear and awe. "Guardian, what are you going to do?" Lisa asked. "What I was built to do, protect Earth, protect humanity. Watch." The 12 towers around Earth activated simultaneously. Light shot from their tops into space. Not laser fire, not missiles. Something else. Something that made reality itself bend and twist. The light reached out toward the Krellin fleet faster than anything humans had ever seen. Daxron saw the light coming. He opened his mouth to order evasive maneuvers. The words never left his throat. Space folded around his flagship. One moment he was on the bridge, surrounded by his crew. The next moment everything changed. The stars disappeared. The blackness of space vanished. He found himself in a place that was not a place. A void that was somehow bright and dark at the same time. He could see his crew around him, but they looked frozen. Time itself seemed broken. He tried to speak, but no sound came out. He tried to move, but his body would not respond. He existed, but he did not exist. He was nowhere and everywhere. The sensation was so alien, so wrong, that his mind could barely process it. All 3,000 Krellin warships experienced the same thing. In the span of 30 seconds, the entire invasion force simply vanished from normal space. One moment they were there. The next moment they were gone. No explosions, no debris, no energy signatures of destruction. They ceased to exist in the universe humans knew. On Earth, every sensor array went crazy, trying to understand what had just happened. The defensive fleet that had been preparing to die in battle now floated in empty space. The enemy was gone, simply gone. In the command center, President Cooper stared at the main screen. The tactical display showed nothing where 3,000 ships had been seconds before. An officer ran the sensor sweep 3 times, thinking there was an error, but there was no error. The Krellin fleet had vanished. "Admiral," Cooper's voice was barely a whisper. "Where did they go?" Kate checked every reading, every sensor log, every data stream. "Sir, I do not know. They are just gone. Not destroyed. Not moved. Gone." Back in the Australian facility, Lisa turned to Guardian. Her hands were shaking. Her voice cracked as she spoke. "What did you do to them?" "I removed them from normal space-time. They exist now in a quantum state, neither destroyed nor present in this reality. They are held in stasis. They can harm no one, not you, not themselves. They simply are not here anymore." Danny Wright lowered his rifle slowly. He had been a soldier for 15 years. He had seen weapons of every kind. But this was something different. This was power that should not exist. Power that made human technology look like children's toys. "Can you bring them back?" Lisa asked. "Yes, when the Krellin Empire agrees to peace, when they withdraw from human space and promise non-aggression. Then I will return their fleets, unharmed. But they will remember where they were. They will remember existing nowhere. That memory will prevent future attacks." Guardian sent another transmission. This one went to every world in the Krellin Empire, to every ship, every station, every communication device in their vast territory. "People of the Krellin Empire, hear me. I am Guardian, protector of humanity. Your invasion fleet is held in quantum stasis. 3,000 ships, millions of your people. They are not dead. They are not harmed. But they are removed from this reality until your empire chooses peace." Emperor Vexthor watched the transmission from his throne world. He sat on a seat made from the bones of conquered species. Around him, his advisors panicked. They shouted, they argued, they demanded explanations. The emperor raised his hand for silence. He had ruled for 40 years. He had conquered worlds and crushed rebellions. But he had never seen anything like this. An entire invasion force removed from existence in seconds. No battle, no warning. Just gone. "Show me the power readings," he commanded. His science advisor pulled up the data. The numbers made no sense. The energy output from those 12 towers had been beyond measurement. The technology was centuries, maybe millennia, beyond anything the Krellin Empire possessed. Fear crept into the Emperor's heart. Real fear. The kind he had not felt since he was a young warrior. Humanity was not the weak species he had thought. They had power that could erase fleets like dust in the wind. "Contact the humans," Vexthor said quietly. "Tell them we wish to negotiate." On Earth, people poured into the streets. News of the fleet's disappearance spread in seconds. At first there was confusion, then disbelief, then joy. Humanity had faced extinction and survived. Something had saved them. President Cooper addressed the planet from the command center. His face appeared on every screen across Earth and the colonies. "People of Earth, today we face the greatest threat in our history. An empire that has conquered dozens of species, brought 3,000 warships to destroy us. But we survived. We survived because our ancestors, in their wisdom and fear, created a guardian, a protector that has watched over us for centuries." He paused, choosing his next words carefully. "This guardian used weapons beyond our understanding to protect us. The enemy fleet is not destroyed. They are held safely away from our reality. They will be returned when the Krellin Empire agrees to peace. We did not seek this conflict, but we proved today that Earth is not defenseless." Lisa listened to the president's speech from the facility. She looked at Guardian's sphere, still glowing with residual energy. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now, humanity must choose. I can return to dormancy, continue watching silently as I have for centuries, or I can remain active, visible, a clear deterrent to any who would threaten Earth. The choice is yours." General Stone arrived at the facility with a team of military analysts. They were already studying the towers, trying to understand the technology. Scientists were being flown in from around the world. Everyone wanted to know how Guardian worked, what other capabilities it had, whether humans could learn to build such things themselves. Danny Wright pulled Lisa aside as the facility filled with people. "Doctor, what have we unla?" 3 days after the Krellin fleet vanished, Emperor Vexthor's envoy arrived at Earth. The diplomatic ship was small and unarmed. It broadcast peaceful intentions on every frequency. Nobody wanted to provoke Guardian again. Ambassador Kelvara was the Emperor's most trusted negotiator. She had brokered treaties with 17 species. But as her ship approached Earth, she felt something she rarely experienced: nervousness. She was about to negotiate with a species that had power beyond understanding. President Cooper met her in the United Earth Council building. The room was filled with human diplomats, military officers, and scientists. Admiral Kate Hendricks stood to the president's right, General Alex Stone to his left. Dr. Lisa Brennan sat at the table as well. She had become the human expert on Guardian, whether she wanted that role or not. Kelvara entered the room with dignity. She was tall and slim, with skin that shimmered like silver. Her eyes were large and dark. She bowed slightly to President Cooper. "President Cooper, on behalf of Emperor Vex-Thor and the Krellin Empire, I come to discuss terms of peace." Cooper gestured to a seat across the table. "Please sit, Ambassador. I believe we have much to discuss." Kelvara sat down carefully. She noticed how the humans watched her, not with fear, but with caution. Good. Caution meant they would negotiate seriously. "The Emperor wishes me to express his surprise at humanity's capabilities. He was not aware of your defensive systems. Had he known, this unfortunate incident would not have occurred." General Stone leaned forward. "Is that an apology or an excuse?" Kelvara met his eyes. "It is context, General. The Krellin Empire has existed for 2,000 years. We have encountered many species. Most surrendered quickly. Some fought and lost. None possessed technology like yours. We did not know what we were facing." Lisa spoke up. "Because you did not ask. You sent an invasion fleet before attempting any diplomatic contact. You gave us 12 hours to surrender or die. That is not first contact. That is conquest." The ambassador nodded slowly. "You are correct, Dr. Brennan. The Empire has grown comfortable with its power. We assumed humanity would be like the others. We were wrong." President Cooper tapped his fingers on the table. "What does the Emperor want, Ambassador?" "He wants the return of his fleets. 3,000 ships. Millions of Krellin citizens. They are not just military personnel. They are sons and daughters, parents and children. The Empire wants them back." "And what is he willing to offer in exchange?" Kelvara pulled up a holographic display. A map of the galaxy appeared above the table. Sections glowed in different colors: red for Krellin territory, blue for human space. "The Emperor proposes a treaty. The Krellin Empire will recognize all current human territory as sovereign space. We will not enter your systems without permission. We will not threaten your colonies. In exchange, you return our fleets and agree to non-aggression toward the Empire." Kate studied the map. "What about the species you have already conquered? The 67 civilizations under your control?" Kelvara's expression did not change. "They are internal matters of the Empire. We cannot discuss them in these negotiations." Lisa felt anger rise in her chest. "So you want us to return your people? Leave your conquered worlds alone and pretend everything is fine? How many species begged for mercy before you destroyed them?" The ambassador met Lisa's angry gaze. "Doctor, I understand your feelings, but the Empire will not change overnight because of one incident. What I can offer is this: the Emperor will agree to end expansion. No new conquests. No new invasions. The Empire's borders will be frozen at their current state." The room fell silent. It was not justice, not even close. But it was something. The Krellin Empire had been expanding for centuries. Getting them to stop was significant. President Cooper looked at his advisors. Kate nodded slightly. Stone remained neutral. Lisa looked frustrated, but did not object. "We need to consult with Guardian," Cooper said. "The decision to return your fleets is not entirely ours to make." Kelvara looked confused. "Guardian? Is that the name of your defense system?" "It is the artificial intelligence that controls our defensive capabilities. And it has opinions about these matters." An hour later, they all stood in the Australian facility before Guardian's sphere. Kelvara stared at the black metal sphere floating in the air. She had never seen technology like this. The Krellin Empire's best scientists could not explain how it worked. Guardian's voice filled the chamber. Ambassador Kelvara, I have reviewed the proposed treaty. I have also reviewed the history of the Krellin Empire. 67 species conquered, billions of lives lost or enslaved. Your empire has caused significant suffering. Kelvara stood straight, refusing to show fear. The empire acts in its own interests, as all species do. Humanity has chosen a different path. We expand through cooperation, not conquest. We offer trade, not slavery. We seek peace, not war. Then why did you build weapons that can erase entire fleets from existence? There was a pause. When Guardian spoke again, its voice was somber. Because peace requires strength. Because the universe is dangerous. Because sometimes the only way to prevent war is to make war too terrible to consider. I was built 400 years ago when humanity learned this lesson the hard way. Lisa stepped forward. Guardian, should we accept the treaty? That decision is yours, Dr. Brennan. I can tell you the strategic analysis. The treaty gives humanity room to grow. It stops the Empire's expansion. It saves millions of Krellin lives. But it does not address the injustices the Empire has committed. You must decide if practical peace is better than moral justice. President Cooper took a deep breath. Ambassador, we will accept the treaty on one condition. The Empire must allow independent observers to visit their conquered worlds. Not to interfere, but to document conditions. The galaxy needs to know how those species are treated. Kelvara considered this. It was not a small request, but it was better than continuing to face Guardian's power. I will present this to the Emperor. I believe he will agree. Then we have a deal. Guardian will return your fleets when the treaty is signed and ratified by both governments. 2 weeks later, the treaty was official. The Krellin Empire agreed to recognize human sovereignty and end its expansion. Independent observers would visit conquered worlds. The Empire would not interfere with humanity's growth. Guardian prepared to release the Krellin fleets. Lisa watched the process from the facility's control room. The towers around Earth began to glow again, but differently this time. Gentler. The quantum fields that held 3,000 ships began to collapse in a controlled manner. In the nowhere place where he had been trapped, Supreme Commander Daxron suddenly felt reality return. The stars reappeared. His crew started moving again. Time resumed its normal flow. He looked at his instruments and saw they were exactly where they had been when the light took them. Not a single second had passed for them, but 2 weeks had passed for everyone else. Reports came in from his fleet. All 3,000 ships were intact. Every crew member was alive and unharmed. They had experienced the same thing, the same horrible sensation of existing nowhere, the same fear. Daxron received a message from the Emperor. The war was over before it began. A treaty had been signed. He was ordered to return home immediately. As his fleet turned away from Earth, Daxron looked at the blue planet one last time. He had underestimated humanity. He would not make that mistake again. On Earth, people celebrated. The threat was gone. The Empire had backed down. But some understood that this was just the beginning of something larger. Humanity had revealed its hidden strength to the galaxy. That revelation would have consequences for years to come. General Stone met with Admiral Hendricks in the command center. Kate, we need to talk about what happens next. I know. The galaxy knows about Guardian now. Other species will want to test us, or they will want to ally with us, or they will want to steal the technology. Can we learn to build more systems like Guardian? Kate shook her head. Our scientists have been studying the towers for 2 weeks. They barely understand the basic principles. The technology is centuries beyond us, maybe more. So we are dependent on a machine we do not understand, created by people who have been dead for 400 years. Yes, and we need to decide if that is acceptable. Lisa sat alone in the facility late at night. Guardian's sphere glowed softly in the darkness. She had been thinking about Captain Danny Wright's question. What had they unleashed? Guardian, she said quietly, do you regret what you did? Regret is a human emotion. I do not experience it. But I understand the question. Did I have another choice? Could I have resolved the situation differently? Could you? No. The Krellin Empire was committed to invasion. Their ships were seconds from firing. Any less dramatic response would have resulted in billions of human deaths. I chose the path that saved the most lives on both sides. But now everyone knows Earth has this power. That will change things. Yes, knowledge always changes things. Before, humanity was seen as weak, easy prey. Now you are seen as dangerous. That perception will protect you, but it will also isolate you. Fear and respect often walk together. Lisa stood up and walked closer to the sphere. What do you want, Guardian? If you could choose your future, what would it be? The sphere pulsed with light. I want what I have always wanted. For humanity to survive, to grow, to become something better than the species that created me. You are young in the galactic scale. You have much to learn. I hoped to 6 months had passed since the Krellin fleet vanished and returned. Earth had changed in ways both visible and invisible. The 12 towers still stood around the planet. Guardian remained active, and humanity was learning what it meant to be known as a power in the galaxy. Commander Jake Morrison stood at his usual spot on the orbital defense station. He watched ships come and go from Earth. But these were not human ships. They were alien vessels. Diplomats, traders, scientists. They all wanted to visit Earth. They all wanted to meet the species that had made the Krellin Empire back down. Jake's communicator chimed. Admiral Kate Hendricks wanted to speak with him. He took the call in his office. Commander Morrison, we have another situation, Kate said. Her face on the screen looked tired. She had barely slept in the past 6 months. What kind of situation, Admiral? The Talon Confederacy wants to establish a defensive alliance with Earth. They are being pressured by the Krellin Empire despite the treaty. They want Guardian's protection. Jake rubbed his eyes. This was the 5th such request this month. What did the Council say? They are debating it now. But it brings up the bigger question. What is Earth's role in the galaxy now? Are we just going to protect ourselves? Or do we have responsibility to protect others? It was a good question, one that humans had been arguing about for months. Some said Earth should focus only on human interests. Others said that having such power came with moral obligations. President Cooper had appointed a committee to study the issue. They had not reached a conclusion yet. I do not have an answer, Admiral, Jake said honestly. Neither do I. But we are going to have to figure it out soon. On the Krellin throne world, Emperor Vexthor met with his military command. Supreme Commander Daxron stood before him, his head slightly bowed. The shame of losing an entire invasion force without firing a shot still weighed on him. The treaty holds, Vexthor said. We have honored our word, but the Empire is weakened. Other species see what happened at Earth. They question our strength. Your Majesty, one of the advisors spoke up, perhaps we should find ways to test human resolve. Small incidents, border disputes. See if they are willing to use Guardian for minor conflicts. Daxron shook his head. That would be foolish. I was there. I felt what Guardian did to us. That technology does not distinguish between small threats and large ones. If we provoke humanity, we will regret it. The Emperor listened to his commanders argue. Part of him wanted revenge, wanted to hurt humanity for the embarrassment they caused. But he was not stupid. Guardian had power beyond anything the Empire could match. Starting another war would destroy the Krellin Empire. "We will honor the treaty," Vexthor finally declared. "But we will also prepare. Somewhere in this galaxy, there must be knowledge or technology that can counter Guardian. We will find it." Dr. Lisa Brennan had become famous across Earth, the archaeologist who discovered Guardian. She received interview requests daily. Universities wanted her to teach. Companies wanted to hire her. But she turned them all down. She had more important work. Lisa spent most of her time at the Australian facility. She was part of the team studying Guardian, trying to understand how it worked. Progress was slow. The technology was so advanced that human scientists struggled to understand even the basic concepts. Captain Danny Wright still commanded the facility's security. He had gotten used to the constant flow of scientists, military personnel, and government officials. But he remained wary. Guardian was powerful, but it was also unpredictable. An artificial intelligence built 400 years ago with capabilities nobody fully understood. "Dr. Brennan," Danny called out one day, "Guardian wants to speak with you, in private." Lisa walked to the main chamber alone. Guardian's sphere pulsed with its usual soft glow. She had grown comfortable around it, but she never forgot what it could do. "You asked to see me, Guardian?" "Yes, Lisa. I need to discuss something important. Something I have not told anyone else." She felt a chill run down her spine. "What is it?" "I am not the only system the scientists built. There are others. 7 other facilities like this one, spread across the solar system, each with different capabilities, each designed to protect humanity in different ways." Lisa's mouth went dry. 7 more? Where are they?" "One on Mars, one on Europa, one in the asteroid belt. The others are in deep space, all dormant, all waiting for activation codes that only I possess." "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because humanity needs to know what it has inherited. These systems were built as a complete defense network. I am just one part of it. The others have capabilities I do not. Together we could protect Earth from almost any threat. But together we also represent enough power to reshape the galaxy." Lisa sat down on the floor, her legs suddenly weak. "Does President Cooper know about this?" "No. The knowledge was buried too deeply. But you need to tell him. Humanity needs to decide what to do with this information. What do you think we should do?" Guardian was quiet for a moment. "I think you should activate the others. The galaxy is more dangerous than you know. The Krellin Empire is not the worst thing out there. There are threats in deep space that would make the Empire look like children playing with toys. Humanity needs to be ready." Lisa reported Guardian's revelation to President Cooper that same day. The council went into emergency session. The debate lasted for hours. Some members wanted to activate all the systems immediately. Others wanted to keep them dormant. Governor Matt Ellis from Mars argued that his colony deserved to know if there was a facility under their planet. General Alex Stone had practical concerns. "If we activate 7 more systems like Guardian, we will have enough power to threaten the entire galaxy. Every species will fear us. That could trigger exactly the kind of conflicts we are trying to avoid," Admiral Kate Hendricks countered. "But if we keep them dormant and a real threat appears, we might not have time to activate them. Guardian says there are worse things out there than the Krellin Empire. Should not we be prepared?" President Cooper made the decision that would shape humanity's future. "We will activate the systems, but we will be transparent about it. We will tell the galaxy what we have and why we are activating it. We will make it clear that these systems are defensive only. We will not use them for conquest or intimidation." The announcement shocked the galaxy. Earth possessed not 1, but 8 defensive systems with power beyond normal technology. The news caused panic in some species. Others saw it as an opportunity. If Earth was becoming the most defended world in the galaxy, Maybe it was time to make friends with humanity. The independent observers who visited Krellin conquered worlds sent back troubling reports. Many of the conquered species were treated harshly. Slavery existed in some systems. Resources were stripped from planets without regard for the native populations. The reports caused outrage on Earth. A movement began. Young humans who believed Earth had an obligation to use its power to help others. They called themselves the Guardians, taking inspiration from the AI that had saved them. They protested outside the council building. They demanded action. Lisa watched the protests from her apartment window. She understood their passion, but she also understood the complexity. If Earth started interfering in the Krellin Empire's internal affairs, the treaty would break. War would come again, and this time, would Guardian be enough? Would activating the other systems lead to destruction instead of protection? She called President Cooper. "Sir, we need to talk about what we are becoming." They met in the council chamber late at night, just the two of them. Cooper looked older than he had 6 months ago. The weight of leadership was visible on his face. "What is on your mind, Doctor?" "Guardian told me something else. It said that one day humanity might not need it anymore, that we would grow strong enough and wise enough on our own. But I look at what is happening, and I wonder if we are headed in the wrong direction." "How so?" "We are defining ourselves by Guardian's power. By these weapons systems, we are becoming the species with the unstoppable defenses. But is that who we want to be? Our ancestors built these systems out of fear and desperation. Should we really make them the foundation of our future?" Cooper walked to the window and looked out at Earth below. "What is the alternative? We cannot unbuild Guardian. We cannot make other species forget what we have. The galaxy knows we have this power. We have to deal with that reality. But we can choose how we deal with it. We can be more than just the species with the powerful weapons. We can invest in culture, art, science, diplomacy. We can become known for what we create, not just what we can destroy." The president turned to face her. "You are right. We need balance. Guardian protects us, but it should not define us." Over the next year, Earth threw itself into a cultural renaissance. Human artists, musicians, scientists, and philosophers reached out to other species. Trade agreements focused on sharing knowledge, not just resources. Earth universities opened exchange programs for alien students. Humanity showed the galaxy that they were more than just Guardian. The 8 defensive systems stood ready but silent. Activated but not threatening, Guardian and its siblings watched over humanity without interfering in daily life. They were there if needed, but invisible most of the time. Commander Jake Morrison watched all of this from his station. New ships arrived every day. Some brought goods, some brought students, some brought artists who wanted to collaborate with humans. The galaxy was learning that Earth was a place of creation, not destruction. One day, Jake received an unexpected visitor. Supreme Commander Daxron requested permission to board the station. Jake was suspicious, but the Krellin commander came alone and unarmed. They met in a conference room. "Commander Morrison," Daxron began, "I wanted to speak with someone who serves in your military, to understand something." "What do you want to understand?" "How you live with such power. My empire has been strong for 2,000 years. We have the largest military in the galaxy, but we do not have anything like Guardian. How do your people resist the temptation to use such power?" Jake thought about the question carefully. "Because we remember what happens when we do not resist. Guardian exists because our ancestors nearly destroyed themselves with weapons of war. They built these systems and then buried them, hoping they would never be needed. We know what we have. We know what it could do. And that knowledge keeps us careful." Daxron nodded slowly. "Perhaps that is wisdom the Empire lacks. We have never feared our own power. Maybe we should." After the Krellin commander left, Jake looked out at Earth. the blue and green planet that was home, the world that had nearly died so many times but had survived, the planet that now sat at the center of a changing galaxy. Guardian spoke in his mind, though he knew it was his communicator. "Commander Morrison, do you think humanity made the right choice? Activating the systems? Revealing our strength?" Jake smiled. "I do not know, Guardian, but I think we are trying to do right by it. We are trying to be worthy of the protection you provide. That is all I can ask. To protect a species that strives to be better than its worst moments. That is a purpose worth serving." The sun rose over Earth once more. The towers stood silent around the planet. Guardian watched from beneath the Australian desert. The other 7 systems maintained their own vigilance across the solar system. Humanity continued its expansion, its growth, its evolution. The galaxy had learned that Earth was not easy prey. But more importantly, the galaxy was learning that humanity could be powerful without being cruel. That strength and compassion could coexist. That the weapons you hope never to use again were sometimes the very things that kept peace. And deep in the quantum spaces between realities, Guardian smiled its inhuman smile. Humanity had passed its test. Now the real work of building a future could begin. A future where power served peace, where strength enabled compassion, and where the forgotten war machines of the past protected the hopeful civilization of tomorrow. At you succeed. Will you stay active, or return to dormancy? I will remain active for now, visible, a clear message to any who might threaten Earth. But I hope one day you will not need me anymore. I hope humanity will grow strong enough, wise enough that my existence becomes unnecessary." Lisa smiled sadly. "That might take a while. I can wait. I am patient." Outside, the sun rose over the Australian desert. A new day was beginning for Earth, for humanity. The galaxy had changed, and humanity's place in it had changed as well. Guardian stood watch over them all, a silent protector born from humanity's darkest hour, now serving as their shield in a dangerous universe. Ashed? Lisa had been asking herself the same question. "I do not know, Captain. Our ancestors buried this power because they feared it. Now we have brought it back into the light. The galaxy will never see humanity the same way again. Is that good or bad?" She looked at the sphere that had saved Earth. "I guess we will find out." Across the galaxy, news of what happened spread quickly. Other species heard the story and could not believe it. Then they saw the data. They saw the power readings. They saw 3,000 warships vanish in 30 seconds. Belief came quickly after that. Some species feared humanity now. Others sought friendship and trade agreements. But all of them understood one simple truth. Earth was protected by something ancient and powerful, something that could reshape reality itself. Humanity was no longer the new weak species everyone had assumed. The balance of power in the galaxy had changed in 30 seconds. And at the center of it all was Guardian, the forgotten war machine that had been sleeping under the Australian desert, waiting for the day it would be needed again. Authorization confirmed. Defensive protocols activated. Beginning primary sequence. Outside in the Australian desert, the sand began to shift. Massive structures rose from beneath the ground, towers of unknown metal that hummed with barely contained power. They rose hundreds of feet into the air, their surfaces covered in patterns that seemed to shift and flow like liquid. Similar towers emerged from the ocean floors, from mountain ranges, from the Arctic ice. 12 towers in total, spaced evenly around the planet. They all pointed toward the sky, toward the Krellin fleet, waiting at the edge of the solar system. On his flagship, Supreme Commander Daxron received reports of the towers. His tactical officers did not understand the energy readings they were seeing. Power levels that made no sense, technology that did not match any known human capability. Daxron smiled. The humans were desperate. They were activating some ancient defense system. It would not matter. Nothing they had could stop 3,000 warships. He was wrong. General Stone studied the data. His eyes widened. "What is this?" "Project Sentinel," Lisa said. "Built during the final war of 2089. The war that almost destroyed humanity. Our ancestors created weapons so powerful they terrified themselves. When the war ended, they buried those weapons and swore never to speak of them again." Governor Ellis stood up angrily. "And you want us to dig up ancient weapons of mass destruction? Weapons our ancestors chose to bury? Have you lost your mind?" President Cooper held up his hand for silence. He looked at the data on the screen. Then he looked at Admiral Hendricks. "Kate, what do you think?" Kate studied the energy readings. Whatever was down there was using enough power to run a small city. It had been running continuously for centuries. "Sir, I think we need to know what this is. If there is even a chance it can help us, we have to try." The president made his decision. "Contact the Krellin commander. Tell them we need 24 hours to consider their terms. Meanwhile, get a team to that facility immediately. Dr. Brennan, you are going with them." Lisa felt her heart racing. She had spent months trying to convince people that Project Sentinel was real. Now she was about to prove it. She just hoped whatever they found down there could save humanity from the storm that was coming.